Chair, Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to present Helen Jones for the Honorary degree of Master of Arts of the University of Brighton. Helen Jones has made an outstanding contribution to lesbian, gay, bi, trans and queer mental health services and advocacy locally, and to challenging mental health and LGBTQ stigma nationally. Helen is currently Chief Executive of MindOut, an independent charity which she established 15 years ago after winning funding from Comic Relief. MindOut manages a mental health service run by and for LGBTQ people. It provides advice and information, advocacy, a peer support group, well-being activities and events, a peer mentoring service, an out-of-hours online chat service, and a food and allotment project. In recent years, MindOut has won further grants from the Big Lottery and has local service contracts, and won a National Diversity Award, as well as winning the BBC Radio 4 All in the Mind Award for Best Project, beating 400 others and gaining high-profile national recognition for a local charity. Helen and MindOut not only provide a much-needed service, studies have shown that 40% of LGBTQ people will experience a significant mental health problem compared to 25% of the whole population. They work around the country to deliver affirmative practice for mental health professionals and to seek to influence national policy and practice. Originally trained as a psychiatric nurse, Helen came to Brighton in 1984 and studied social anthropology at the University of Sussex. She subsequently trained and qualified as a psychotherapist. Her fight to challenge stigma, she says, would not have been possible without the support of others. You cannot do it without your community, she says. And she has been part of the movement to recognize the needs of the LGBT community and of mental health service users more generally, which has grown rapidly over the last 20 years. With the support of that community, she has managed to grow a small charity in challenging times for the voluntary sector into one with true local and national significance. But Helen has not only been at the forefront of anti-discriminatory practice and service development. She's also established a strong relationship with this university. In 2005, Helen led the development of a community university partnership with academics from the School of Applied Social Science, which undertook research on LGBTQ suicidal distress. The research made an impact on local and national policy and practice, and underpinned the role Helen played in disseminating findings, including her role in the Suicide Prevention Working Party that culminated in the first LGBTQ suicide prevention strategy for Brighton and Hove. MindOut continue to collaborate on research projects with the university and are hosting a PhD student investigating the role of social media in help-seeking behavior based on MindOut's online peer support program. More recently, Helen and staff in SAS have developed a truly innovative learning project for first-year social science students, which some of you graduating today may have taken part in. Known as the Living Library, based on an idea originally developed in Sweden, MindOut provide 30 to 40 volunteers as living books which students can borrow and ask about their experience of discrimination. The volunteers choose their own human book titles or labels describing their particular experience of discrimination relating to their LGBTQ identities and mental health experiences. The student reader can ask the book anything, although the interactions are monitored for the protection of both parties. The project is based on the social contact theory of discrimination, the idea that talking to others and listening to diverse experiences challenges discrimination. The volunteers gain a great deal and often describe it as empowering, as they see their own personal stories make a difference to breaking down prejudice, broadening experience, and supporting learning. and many students have described it as life-changing and a way of making real their learning about social inequalities. And as well as all this, Helen continues to collaborate with our LGBT Queer Lives Research Hub and the Transforming Sexuality and Gender Research Cluster, including co-hosting poet Jackie Kay to recognise World Mental Health Day and Black History Month. The values of inclusiveness, diversity, community engagement and practical wisdom underpin the university's strategy and its commitments to working with its partners. As a valued partner, no one embodies these more than Helen Jones. Chair, on behalf of the Academic Board and in recognition of her outstanding contribution to public service in the field of lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender mental health, I have great pleasure in presenting Helen Jones for the Honorary degree of Master of Arts of the University of Brighton.
Thank you, Professor Taylor. Helen Jones, in recognition of your outstanding contribution to public service in the field of lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender mental health, I confer upon you the honorary degree of Master of Arts of the University of Brighton. I now have pleasure in asking Helen to address the audience.
Chair, Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen, and those of us who do not identify with the gender binary, thank you so much for this award. I feel really, really honoured to receive it. And thank you, David, for the lovely speech. This award means a lot to me personally, but more importantly, it's an acknowledgement that issues around lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer mental health are seen as a legitimate and urgent field of study and of community development. It hasn't always been so. 20 years ago, when we started this work, there was a huge gap of evidence around the lived experience of LGBTQ mental health. We badly needed research that would collect and analyse the wealth of anecdote and personal testimony that we had. And CUP, the Community University Partnership Programme, gave us one of these opportunities, from which came the suicide prevention research that David mentioned. And alongside this, we then had the seminal Count Me In and Count Me In Too community needs research. And these three pieces of work really were the envy of LGBTQ activists around the UK. And I can't emphasise enough just how the research done by colleagues at the University of Brighton, particularly Catherine Johnson and Kath Brown, has aided and shaped what MindOut has been able to provide in terms of direct services, services which save lives and change lives. MindOut's development is a great example of how university and community groups can work together. And I wanted to point that out particularly to those of you who are going on to further study or finding out how to use the degrees that you're getting today. I am immensely proud of what MindOut has become. I have the privilege to work with an amazing team of staff, volunteers and service users. We are a very successful small charity. And if you'd like to know more or get involved in our work or make a donation, then please do look us up online. Mental health is a huge social, economic and political issue. 1 in 4 of us will experience a mental health problem at some point in our lives. For LGBTQ people, this is considerably higher due to exclusion, prejudice, stigma and abuse. At MindOut, we've developed a particular approach to community mental health, and there's a couple of aspects of that I wanted to highlight. The first is that peer support works. Talking about your experiences of mental health, however awful you've felt, whatever desperate circumstances you've encountered, talking about that to people who have similar experiences can be immensely empowering. You are not alone. Your experience, how you've managed, how you've survived, can be transformational for other people. And I really urge you to seek out places where you can connect around mental health. Secondly, we work to make mental health a community concern. Mental health is everybody's issue, regardless of what your personal experience may or may not be. We can all contribute to the mental health of our communities, and that goes for everybody here today. We can all contribute to social change. One of the most important ways we can do that is to address mental health stigma. Stigma both within ourselves and others, to challenge our own stereotypes, to raise awareness, to increase our knowledge, and to challenge prejudice wherever we find it, wherever we feel safe enough to do so. Now, I can't possibly thank everybody who's helped the cause of LGBTQ mental health over the last few years, because the list would be way too long. And although it's a bit of a cliche, it is true of all social and political movements that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And I would like to mention 2 of those giants who contributed hugely, and both of whom I find inspirational. Firstly, Helen Boyle, a remarkable woman who died in 1957. She was a lesbian and a psychiatrist who was one of the first physicians to look at mental health as a social, economic and political issue. She lived in Brighton and Hove, and she founded the National Association for Mental Health, which is now National Mind. And secondly, Kate Bornstein. Kate is a gender warrior and suicide prevention activist. Very funny, very eloquent, and well worth looking up on YouTube. Kate is also very wise and has 2 pieces of advice for life, which I can find no better way to end on. These are to be kind and to stay alive. Be kind to yourself above all. Be kind to others. Be kind in any way you can. Kate doesn't shy away from the fact that life isn't easy. There's highs, there's lows. But however awful it gets, however desperate we might feel, this too will pass. And we all have Kate's permission to do whatever we need to keep going, to stay alive, as long as we're kind. So, congratulations to everybody getting their degrees today. Very well done. And once again, thank you, Chair, Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen, and those of us clever enough to have transcended gender.